Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. It's good to have you once more.
Ke mantaga gompieno re tso re tshwere a great series e le goreng morate ka kwano ra e tsweletsa motsatsing la gompieno a re khatla pipile go seneng bekenyana gore re bua ka gompieno gape.
We are continuing today about adaptation and how we adapt. Today I'm going to touch just on a few things because we don't really have much of time. So I'm going to touch mainly on the key aspects around what do we focus on in terms of us adapting. So, I just want to highlight a few things. As we have spoken last week, one of the things that we highlighted was that it's important for us to understand how everything has been created to adapt to its environment. Whether you think about a buffalo that is born in the wild, it's born as an innocent young buffalo, and it doesn't really know what is there and the risks that are involved in its environment. And as it grows, it begins to see what is happening. So the responsibility of the mother of that buffalo is to make sure that that buffalo survives until it reaches an age where it can fend for itself. So part of the reason you will find that it's because in that moment, because that little animal does not know the difference between danger and safe. And it has to learn through its growth process to learn the difference and to learn what you would call survival instincts. And those survival instincts are important because that's what develops a mentality in that animal, which you would call a mentality that is best suited for the environment of that animal. If it's a lion, if it's a young cub, it will be taught on how hunting gets done. And it will grow up learning and seeing how the mother hunts and how the alpha lion also hunts. And it will learn those skills, and it will begin to realize that unless I learn how to hunt and become the best hunter, I will not be able to live. And you will see different animals, even fish in the ocean. They don't get born, or the eggs are not laid, and when those animals come out, they already know how to navigate the ocean. They need to learn how to navigate the ocean through the growth process. Now, God has allowed us to live in this earth so that we can develop instincts that will allow us to live our lives in a much more efficient and effective way. This is why we are talking about adaptation, because adaptation is that process where you are learning on how to become better suited for your environment. How you can become most efficient. If you are a hunter, you become an efficient hunter. Yes. If you are a survivor, you become an efficient survivor. If you are a provider, you become an efficient provider. So that adaptation process becomes important. And that is why man has been created. You know, as a person, you have been created to always have that desire and that anticipation of wanting to know your existence. And this is important because man finds his meaning of existence. He finds his meaning of existence in what we discussed last week, which is what we call success. And you will find that many a times that this is why success becomes a necessity for most humans, because it gives them a sense of accomplishment. And that gives you validation. You become validated as a person when you have that sense of accomplishment, that sense of victory, that sense of achievement. And this becomes important because then you realize that as a person, you were created to also grow. But as you evolve and grow, there are certain things and certain milestones that you need to achieve as a person. Because as you achieve those milestones, they give you validation. They give you assurance. And in that assurance is assurance for your existence as a human being. And this becomes important because when you get to that place of your life, you will then begin to accept and appreciate the fact that as you grow as a person, you become altered. There are certain things about you that are going to change. And they are either going to change for the worst or they are going to change for the better, depending on your perception of life. And you will find that some people, when they go through certain experiences, and I love using athletes as an example, because you will find a lot of boxers in the US, they don't have a good upbringing. They have a terrible upbringing. Some of them were so impoverished, it's unbelievable. But how they fought for their lives, how they evolved and grow and developed themselves to a level where they were able to now achieve so much with the little that they had at their disposal, but they were able to achieve so much. Now, what that shows you as a person is that it is not about where you come from. But it has everything to do with what you do with what you have at that point in time.
Yes, sir.
What you do with the life that God has given you at this point in time of your life. You know, you might have had a lot of disappointments in your past. You might have had a lot of things that have caused pain in your life in the past. A lot of things that have discouraged you in the past. Yeah. Yes, in as much as that has happened and you can appreciate what it has done in your life. But what you need to realize is what you can do for yourself moving from this point today is what changes where you end up.
Wow.
And I always say to people, if you choose in your life to say, it does not matter what I go through. It does not matter what I experience. Yeah. I will never give up. I am telling you, if you have that mentality, nothing will ever beat you in life. Because even if something shoots you down, you know, I have seen, there's this one time where I saw someone run. And this person was running, and as they were running, I think he had a muscle cramp during that race. It's not a relay, but it's a 400-meter race. So when he had that cramp, he forced himself and he quickly tried to rub his thighs, and it was hard. And then he started forcing himself to run until that leg started getting better. That person, from being in the last position where people were now probably more than 100 meters away from him, he started running. He ran so hard that he recovered. And he got to those people that he was chasing, and he passed them. And he went ahead and opened a gap between him and those people. It shows you that as a person, there is an inherent power that you are given as a human being. That it is a God-given ability that if you can put your mind in the right place, there is nothing that can stop you. Yes, so I wanted to talk today about the law of the mind. Wow. The law of the mind. Now, the law of the mind is a very powerful tool that God has given us. And what he is saying is that the way I have created you such that everything that operates in your body operates through the mind. Which means your mind tells your body how to behave. Your mind tells your body when to get tired. Your mind, and whether you want to believe it or not, your mind tells your body when you are tired. Your mind tells your body what to do when it needs to do. For an example, this is why you have nerves in your body. Because what those nerves are doing, if someone pinches you, those nerves, they take that message to the brain. And the brain will interpret that message and say, okay, that feels like a pinch. And then it tells you it's a pinch. Then you believe that it's a pinch. Now, if you feel something that burns you, those nerves that are in the area where it feels the heat, they will tell the mind quickly to say there's heat there. And it will tell your hand, remove your hand. Your brain controls every single thing that happens in your body, including what your body is capable of doing. So what it simply means is that for as long as you can tell your mind that I will not fail, I can do it. I will not fail, I can do it. Yes, your whole body begins to believe that. Every nerve in your body works to support what your brain is saying at that time. Powerful. Which is why it becomes so important to understand the law of the mind. What I'm saying is that we are not living in the world where we are lying to ourselves and we are saying it's okay when it's not okay. But what we are saying is that you need to realize that what you tell yourself is even if it's not okay, you will say in the midst of the situation not being okay, I can still come out strong. In the midst of all the difficulties that I'm experiencing, I can still come out strong. You know, I watched a boxing match this one time. This one guy was fighting with a guy that was bigger than him. And this guy was throwing punches. And he didn't even know how to work his way around it. He tried blocking. He tried jumping around the ring. And this guy just kept going. And he was knocking him out every time. And this guy, every time he fell, he quickly stood up. Every time he fell, he quickly stood up. And there was a point where he got an opportunity to throw a blow at this guy. That one punch changed the course of the whole match. Just one punch. He knocked out that big guy with just that one punch. Now, what this tells you is that in life, things will throw you down. If you choose to stand, you will continue going. If they knock you down, you choose to stand, you continue going. As long as you choose to never give up, nothing can beat you in this lifetime.
Wow.
Now, if nothing can beat you in this lifetime, if you choose not to give up, what it means then is that I need to then get into my mind and get to a place in my mind where I say to myself, I know that nothing happens in my life unless I have thought about it. And this is what the law of the mind says. Nothing in your life ever happens unless you have thought about it. Nothing in your life catches you by surprise. Even people who have been in accidents before, they will tell you, if they are honest with themselves, to say, prior to me driving, or a few weeks before, or a month before, I had a fear about driving. I had a fear about getting involved in an accident. And for some reasons, either a few days later, or a few weeks later, or a month later, that accident manifested and that accident happened.
It transpired.
And you will hear people saying, I have a good feeling about something. It feels like something good is about to happen. I have a good feeling about this. I have a good feeling. And before you know it, you get to a point where all of a sudden something good happens. Now you have allowed your mind to generate positive thoughts to a point where everything in your body was working towards those thoughts. What am I trying to say to you today? If there's anything that you need to take out of this session today, is that your life is shaped by your own thoughts. Your life is shaped by your own thoughts. And that is the law of the mind. What you think is what you will ultimately experience. If you walk in fear of certain things, those are the things you are going to experience.
Those are the outcomes.
Yeah, it's like if you are afraid that you are going to get mugged if you walk at night. I am telling you, the day you travel at night, you are going to get mugged. Because that's what your brain, that's what your brain has generated. You will never in your life experience things that are not in line with what you were thinking about. So this then teaches us something really important. Is then the question we need to have is to say, that means my mind can limit me. But it also means my mind can open the whole world for me.
True.
But it depends on how I'm thinking. And most of the time, what people think is what they end up saying. And this is very critical.
Yes, sir.
Because people do not realize the power of what they think. Sometimes you say negative things about yourself and you don't think it has an effect because you are just saying it. To say, no, these type of things, I am telling you, even if you had the ability to do that particular thing, but because you have said it and you have thought about it, you are not ever in your life going to be able to do that thing. Let me give you an example.
Yes, sir.
When Lionel Messi was young, he had a chronic illness. And that chronic illness required a very sophisticated surgery, which they couldn't afford at that time. And that particular sickness meant Lionel Messi could not grow to a certain height. And even if you look at him now, he's not necessarily a tall person. And that did not put him in a space where he thought, I mean, as a soccer player, the taller you are, the better, especially as a striker. Because truth be told, is most of the time you easily score goals, you easily gain possession of the ball if you are actually taller and you have a stature that allows you to take advantage of other defenders. Now, but Lionel Messi, in spite of all of that, he went out. He practiced more than what his other mates were practicing. He gave more time in exercise. He gave more energy in what he was doing. He put more time and effort in what he was doing, more than what other people were doing, because he understood that if I allow myself to act ordinary, because I already have a shortcoming, I am going to disadvantage myself. So some of you might realize that, yes, you have several shortcomings. I remember there was this one time when I was in high school. I was playing basketball in high school. And there was this one guy who was very, very short. But he played basketball. And the only reason why they allowed him to play basketball at that time was because he was a dribble master.
Oh, wow.
Now, in as much as he couldn't do what other people were doing, like slam dunk, jump, and do all of those hoops and whatnot, all he did was to dribble and gain possession and open up room for the rest of the players to score. Now, you realize that even if you do have several shortcomings, those shortcomings are in line with other abilities that God has given you for you to excel in that area. Which is why it's important. You should never look at your shortcomings and think they are disadvantaging you or your existence in the world. Those shortcomings are there to align you and push you in the right direction for you to be able to do what you need to do. Some of the people that are doing public speaking today, if they were to tell you where they come from, some of them will tell you that I had speech impairment. I couldn't talk. I would stammer and I would stutter when I'm speaking. But then I took my time and developed this ability and developed this skill. And if some of them tell you that I used to stutter, you're not even going to believe it because you were not in their lives. But they had to push for them to get to where they are. Because look at it this way. The level of the size of the destiny that is upon your life requires the same amount of effort for you to get to it. Some people don't realize that the bigger the problems you experience in your life, it means there is a bigger thing that God has in store for you. Now, many a times we look at our trouble and say, how do I go through trouble? Other people go through financial issues, but my financial issues are bigger than everyone else's. It's because your destiny is bigger than theirs. And I'm going to talk about this in more detail next week because I call that the law of proportionality.
Yes, sir.
To say what I experience in terms of difficulty is in line with what I am able to deliver to the world. Which means, ha motho a rapela, o ka se rapele jaaka motho o ownang tuck shop. If o batla go owna mine. O ka se rapele jaaka motho o ownang spa. If o batla go owna Walmart. There are things that you do differently because of the size of destiny that you carry in your hand. So that's why you need to know that when you train your mind, you train your mind to know that I have a destiny. And this destiny will only survive if I teach this mind to start thinking properly.
Yes, sir. Wow.
If I teach my mind to think properly. And this means you need to be very careful about the kind of things you feed your mind. You need to be careful of the material that you feed your mind. Because that material is what will ultimately direct you in the direction you will grow. And this is very important because it means whatever material I consume is the material that will align my mind to think in a certain way. This is why when I started this year, I said to people, we need to focus on growth.
Yes, sir.
And I said, focus on your growth in terms of your health. And I said, focus on your growth in terms of your spiritual life. You know, some people have not been going to church for long. You need to begin to pull up your socks and say, I need to develop my relationship with God. Because there will come a time in my life where I have no one and only God can help me. And if I am 50 years old, or I am 40 years old, or I am 30 years old, and I still don't even know how to pray, there is a big problem. There is a big problem. If I am 20 years old, I am 30 years old, or I am 40 years old, and I still don't know how to eat well for my body, then there is a serious problem. If I am 20 years old, 30 years old, or 50 years old, and I have not developed habits that allow me to live a healthy life, exercise, do things that are built. You only have one body.
Yes, sir.
You only have one life. When this body and this life deteriorates, that's it. When that time comes, we do what we call a burial. You are finished. We bury you. Now, what it means is that I need to then take caution. You see, young people, you only live once. Yes, you only live once, and it's important for you to know that. But what you also need to know is that your decisions, your habits, your behavior must support the fact that you know that you only live once.
Ooh, powerful. Wow.
So this becomes very important. The law of the mind. Be careful how you think. Be careful how you do things. Be careful what you say. Be careful what you feed this mind of yours. Because if you want things to happen in your life, sometimes you need to sit alone and daydream about how you want your life to look like. And even if you write it down and say, this is how I want my life to look like, so that you remind yourself all the time. These are the thoughts you need to keep in your mind. Whatever that is good, whatever that is kind, whatever that is praiseworthy, whatever that is beautiful that you can think about, those are the things you need to think about and spend your time thinking about those things because they help your mind to remain healthy and produce positive results. The law of the mind. Thank you, sir.
Motho se ke re mo happy re buisana jalo le re ka kwa matsela gompieno mantaga mo le mongwe re dira jalo Monday motivation e sa bile ka tsela le bogora o ya letsatsi la gompieno mo re go nyesa fediseng pilo ra tswa yalo kwa